Welcome to CareerSpeak, a podcast dedicated to telling the stories of student success. On this edition, we'll be talking with Vanessa Fath, a fashion design senior at Thomas Jefferson University. Her senior collection, which we'll be speaking about today, can be found at myportfolio.com. I'm your host, Patrick Ryan, and this is recorded on the East Falls campus of Thomas Jefferson University. You are listening to CareerSpeak. Welcome, audience, to another edition of CareerSpeaks. Today, Vanessa Fath is here. Welcome. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Patrick?
I am also doing well. So tell everyone that is listening today, what do we need to know about Vanessa Fath? Where are you from? What are you working on? What's happening?
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Fath. I am a senior here at Jefferson, graduating in just a few weeks, which is crazy. I'm from Washington Township in South Jersey, and I am kind of just trying to figure out my life right now. This has been the craziest senior year. It's been the best senior year I could have ever asked for, and I'm really just trying to find my path and figure out what's next.
So what Vanessa means is that she's had a lot of success and now has so many options that it is overwhelming. So Vanessa, we have had previous guests on the show, and we basically frame it this way. We want to know about how you feel about your own personal success, and we've kind of broken it down in this 3 words, 3 phrases. So we talked sort of in pre-production about these words and phrases. So if you just want to introduce them, and we'll kind of talk about each one and why it's been so impactful for your success.
Absolutely. So I would say that my 3 big words, number 1, take chances, or phrases, I guess. Take chances. Number 2, relationships. Number 3, passion.
Let's break those down. So number 1, you said taking chances.
Yes.
All right. So where does this play in? What did you take a chance on? How many chances did you take?
So I really think that taking chances starts for me sophomore year. Sophomore year, I was in the New York Immersion class as a sophomore fashion design student. You could also take the class as a fashion merchandising and management student. And through this class, we were working on an industry project with a major company, but we were also doing go-sees. So just about every other Friday, we were going to New York City and meeting with companies and really learning about what it means to be a part of the fashion industry, what it takes to, run certain roles, and what these companies actually look like, who works there, what, it means to be a part of their culture and what the life is like post-graduation, post-school. And so one of the companies that we met with was PVH Corp, which is the company who owns Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, Van Heusen, Izod, all of Heritage brands. And I was really inspired that day. I remember I was sitting in their PVH Learn room with 30, I think there was like 30 of us in my class, and we were all sitting there listening to this lecture. Well, not really lecture, but we were listening to David Sirkin speak on behalf of the company. And so David Sirkin is actually the president of the dress furnishings group at PVH. He's also a a textile alum. And I was just so inspired. He spoke on behalf of the company culture, the company values, and really what it meant to be a part of their community. They are a community that, prides themselves on individuality, passion, integrity, teamwork, and togetherness. And I think that was so refreshing for me as an 18-year-old sophomore in college, hearing and really understanding what it means to be in the industry, and that it's not necessarily this cutthroat, crazy fashion world that everyone thinks that it is.
For people that are not aware or need a little bit more information, I don't know as much, so Vanessa will add to this, but the New York Immersion program is something that is a selective process, right? So not everyone gets to go on it. There's an application process. You have to qualify and all these different things. And so this is during a semester where you spend 1 week in teams on campus and then the opposite week in New York City.
Correct.
With these go-sees where you're actually, and it's 2 words, go and see, that you're seeing, and this is what Vanessa is talking about at PVH.
Yes. So after this one go-see and really learning about the company, we also got to meet someone in sales from Calvin Klein, someone from the global supply chain team. After that, I was just feeling great. David Sirkin spoke about the internship and, it being a rigorous, competition and being tough to get into. But I was so moved and excited about this company and what they were doing and the work that they were doing that I said, hey, I'm going to apply. PVH was coming to campus for on-campus interviews, so I actually went through the Career Services website. I sent in my resume. That was, not much of a resume for a sophomore, but I sent in my resume, and I was able to actually get an on-campus interview. And right off the bat, that was super humbling because I wasn't expecting it. No one that I knew, I knew a selective few people who had actually applied from my year, but I knew a lot of upperclassmen who applied, so I figured, I have no chance, like, no way. But I sent in my resume, I took a chance on myself, and I said, let's do it. And so I got my first interview. I actually made it to the second round of interviews and then the third round of interviews. After my third round of interviews, I was just on cloud nine. I was so excited. I had been up in New York City, met with 2 different people from the company about potentially interning for their design team. And I just was feeling good. After that day, I actually sent David Sirkin an email, which I think is something that's crazy but really cool. And, everybody has an email. Everybody has the option to email everyone. We got his card at the end of him speaking. And so, again, I took a chance and said, hey, maybe he will read my email. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But if he does, what have I got to lose? And so I sent him an email just saying, hi, David. I, was at your office in September, October, whenever we were there. I was really inspired by what you said to us, and I have now made it through my third round of interviews to potentially intern for your company. I just wanted to let you know that you really inspired me, so thank you for speaking to us, and hopefully I see you this summer. It was something very personal to him, but also, kind of taking a big step for myself. And within the next few days, he responded to my email and said, hi, Vanessa, thank you so much for reaching out. Wishing you the best of luck, on this internship. Keep me posted. About a week later, I found out that I got the internship, which was incredible. So I let him know, and he responded to my email again and said, congratulations. When you're settled in the office, let me know and I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
And so obviously you had coffee, right? I mean, that's how that goes, right?
I unfortunately did not. I got really overwhelmed at work and a little bit nervous, and I never followed up on that, which is my fault.
David Sirkin, you owe Vanessa coffee. If you are listening to this, you owe her coffee.
I'm looking forward to that.
All right. So listen, a lot of chances, a lot of content here. So, you go on this New York Immersion program, which that application process probably not as daunting as applying for this true internship.
Correct.
But for everyone listening that says, I, don't know if I would have the energy to reach out to these types of people, it's not my style. Were you scared to do this? Was it intimidating? Did you just simply have to overcome it, hit send, and then sort of act like you were trying to get the email back? Like, how did that look?
I was definitely terrified. I was terrified. But I think something that I have continually reminded myself and remembered throughout college and frankly throughout a lot of life is that if you don't take chances on yourself and you don't take chances on other people, the worst thing that's going to happen is that you're in the same place you were if you didn't try. If you ask someone something or, you reach out, the worst thing that someone's going to do is say no. And then you're literally in the same position that you were right before you sent the email. So if you can get yourself to, not worry about that, supposed failure that's really not a failure, then you've got nothing to lose. So I can tell you that I was definitely terrified, but I was confident in the fact that the worst thing that was going to happen was he wasn't going to respond to my email, or I wasn't going to get an interview, and I would just move on with my life, and something else was going to happen, and something else would arise and come to the occasion, and I just had to have faith that, things were going to happen how they were supposed to.
Timelining this out, New York Immersion is in the fall or the
Correct.
spring?
I took the class in the fall semester of my sophomore year.
So the fall of the sophomore year, this is your third full semester in
Correct.
college.
Yep.
And by that summer, your rising junior year, you were at PVH in New York City on an internship. Is that correct?
Correct. Okay. Yes.
So for all those out there thinking that internships are reserved for these upperclassmen, this is when this starts. Obviously, you got a jump start, but not the case.
Right. Absolutely. I think that, that's something that people get nervous about is that, I'm too young. I'm not going to be able to. But realistically, you just got to try. Because, there are going to be companies who say, sorry, you are too young. That happened to me with the other 5, internships that I applied for. Everyone else said, sorry, we take, juniors going to be seniors. And I said, oh, all right, well, I put myself out there. And of the other, of the 6 that I applied for, 1 said they would take me. And it worked out. But if I hadn't continued putting myself out there and being okay with the fact that I was young, I didn't have a super full resume, this might not work out. If I didn't have confidence in that fact of maybe failing, that I would have, I might not have found the success.
It sounds like through this experience, you built a lot of relationships, which kind of goes into your second word here. So tell me more about that and why you feel like that's been so critical to your success.
Absolutely. I think that relationships are everything. I very much so I'm a people person. I love people. I love talking. But, one of my friends teases me because we actually met at our hall meeting the first day of freshman year. And my fun fact was, if you ever need to talk, I love talking, so come find me. I'm in room 302 and we can chat. That was literally my fun fact freshman year. So I'm definitely a people person, but I think that, it's, a cliche and it's stereotypical, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's the relationships that you build with people that you get you to the places that you want to be, or maybe you don't know that you can be. Right off the bat, the reason I was able to apply for PVH was the fact that, I was in the New York Immersion class. I had a relationship with our professor and director, Sheila Connolly, who had a relationship with David Sirkin as an alumni. And it was all of these connections that were able to make new relationships and set us up going further. So, but then I think once I got to PVH, this idea of relationships just amplified. I was working directly for a designer on the team at IZOD. But she had great relationships with the entire design team. So even though I was directly reporting directly to her, I was also reporting to her boss and her boss's boss. So I really worked on, showing my skills and proving to her that I was capable of doing certain things. At this point as a sophomore, we had taken a CAD class. I had learned Photoshop, learned Illustrator, which are super important things to know, as a designer in industry. And so in showing that to her, showing those skills, I built that relationship, which then allowed me to have more responsibility and build relationships further. So even though I was reporting directly to the designer, I ended up doing some work for the vice president of design, which then, I was able to build a friendly relationship with them as well. I think there's a balance when you're at work between work and life and being able to socialize with everyone and have fun and be a person, but also prove that you're capable of what you're doing and more, frankly, and that willingness to learn.
I think this point is so important because I feel like when people hear the word networking and they kind of hear what you're saying, they get a bad impression, right? It's like, oh, well, so you got these opportunities because of XYZ, not because of your talent. And I think that it's important to understand that while you were building these relationships, they were seeing your talent. Like it was happening concurrently, not one before the other, as it were. So I think that that's a really important part. The other thing I like that you said is that initially the relationships were actually 2 or 3 degrees away from you, right? So your program director here, which anyone has access to in your program, had this relationship with David. And so again, as a student, I think that's an opportunity that most people would want to take advantage of. So this idea of relationships and networking being naturally inauthentic, I think you're kind of talking about, well, I was doing all this concurrently, right? I was working, they were seeing what I could do, and
my relationships were building from there. Absolutely. But I think, even further from that, when you have those opportunities given to you from the relationships that you're building, there are also so many opportunities that are just presented to everyone, and it's a matter of just taking them. While I was working and building these personal relationships as an intern working for the design team, I was also an intern in the internship program. And there was one day where we actually had a meeting with the president, Jeff Barrett, and he sat down all the interns in my building actually, and we were all in different departments, and he said, I want each of you to meet with all of the different vice presidents because I want you to learn what it's like to be, to see the full spectrum of the industry. So that meant meeting with the vice president of design, the vice president of sales, the vice president of marketing, and like 4 or 5 other people. And you know what? That was an opportunity that was given to every intern there. And I can't say whether everyone took that opportunity or not, but I did. It was presented to me. I had the outlet. I had the option. And so that summer, I ended up meeting with 5 or 6 high up leaders within the company. And frankly, that was not something that was out of reach. It was an opportunity that was given to us. And I think when you're given that, you need to push back the ideas that, oh, I'm an intern, I can't talk to anyone. I don't know, I'm not, esteemed enough to talk to these people. Well, really, you are. If someone's offering this to you, you need to push that aside and say, I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, and I want to get the most that I can out of this summer. And so I was able to build even deeper relationships with that. So, my boss's boss's boss, who I was working with on the design team, on top of that, I had a second opportunity to meet with him personally. And he and I had a personal conversation kind of learning about his path and, how he got to his position and really following his career, which then has, helped mold my perspectives and what I really want to do and follow my path, and make decisions accordingly for how I want to go forward.
For those listening that want to get an idea of what a sophomore intern does in the fashion industry, can you give just like a brief example of some of the work that you did that you either saw go to market or that, was in process while you were there?
Absolutely. So as a design intern, I was working directly with the her name was Kelsey, and she was the designer of Advantage Fleece and the Advantage Performance. So we were working on the Izod crew necks and quarter zips and, the tennis line. And so I was working with her hands-on on the CADs, going to every meeting, learning about costing and editing and marketing and merchandising and seeing all of that hands-on, working on like the tactile work. However, what was really exciting for me is that as I showed my, diligence and attentiveness and frankly my curiosity in these meetings, my willingness to learn, Kelsey saw that I was capable of, doing work. And so I actually, as an intern, was tasked with designing the graphic t-shirts for that summer. And so though, I wasn't a graphic designer, I wasn't doing the final illustrations, I did all of the concept development and came up with the basis of what these shirts were going to be and what they were going to look like, and actually worked directly with the vice president of design on this project. So I was able to build this relationship with Michael Flynn and show him my work ethic. And he was, my super boss, three bosses above me. But I was able to work with him as an intern and actually produce work. And what was so exciting was of the, 20 plus designs that I made that summer, 3 of them went into production and were sold on Amazon, at Kohl's, at JCPenney's, at Boscov's and Costco this past Christmas time. So that was incredibly exciting and such a unique experience. But because I was able to build these relationships and show my team, not even that I was capable of doing things, but just that I wanted to do things, and I was eager to learn, I was presented with an opportunity that turned into tactile merchandise, which is incredible and, I don't know, so surreal.
I actually really like that perspective. So instead of thinking of networking or relationship building, if you want to think about it as doing, that's a lot of what I'm hearing here, is that you were meeting people through your eagerness to do something or to learn something, as opposed to an information or a job, something that's sort of hollow, but like you wanted to get involved with them, right? You wanted to help them, push their products forward. So that's kind of an interesting perspective that a lot of people might not think about.
Yeah.
So here we are. We've got taking chances, which there's been a lot of chance taking. I don't know if anyone has been following along, but I'm like, the count's at 20 right now, at least. We're building relationships. Most of this has been through PVH, but I know you're going to also speak about this with what you're doing here at Jefferson and your cohort in fashion design. So we're moving on to the third term now, which is your passion. And you're going to talk a little bit more about this and sort of the projects you've done while you've been a student here.
Yeah, so I think that passion is something that by the time you're a senior, people kind of forget that, you know, you choose your major and you choose what you want to study because it's what you love to do. And, you know, as we go through school, we get tired, we get a little burnt out, but it's so important to reflect back on your freshman self, or, you know, you're a senior in high school and you're applying to college and you just can't wait to do whatever it is you want to do. And I think that that's so important because, you know, finding that passion within yourself, not just for your practice, but for what you actually care about, is what is going to set you apart and make you care about your work and produce your best work. So my senior year, which has been a roller coaster of a ride for me, but I mean,
as if the entire leading up to this has not been an outrageous roller coaster
ride.
Exactly.
Well, this one gets, I don't know, in my perspective, I think it's even crazier. But I think what's so exciting is that I took a lot of chances and I took some risks. And my senior year, I decided to do a menswear collection that was inspired by the Denim Day Movement. And for those of you who don't know what the Denim Day Movement is, it is a movement to end sexual assault. So in the late 90s, there was a woman in Italy who was assaulted, and she brought her attacker to court. And he was actually found not guilty because supposedly her jeans were too tight. So the next day, it caused a huge, you know, riot and uprise. And the next day,
and just for clarification on this point, so the reason that was so important is because it was decided that the jeans could not have been taken off without
her help.
So
yes. So therefore, she would have implied consent, which is ridiculous. But so the next day, all of the women in the Italian parliament showed up to work wearing tight jeans in solidarity with the survivor. And since then, this has become a movement. It's become a stance that shows support not only for survivors and victims of sexual assault, but also, you know, just the stance that we're not going to tolerate this anymore, and we're not going to stand for this, and this needs to come to an end. And this is something that I feel very strongly about. Too many people that, you know, I know or have relationships with have, you know, everyone I know has someone who's dealt with something similar to this, and it is absurd, and it's something that I frankly really care about. And so for my senior collection, I also care a lot about sustainability, and I've had a lot of, you know, through school, actually through my problem solving class, we had a lot of practice and experience with upcycling and repurposing materials. And so what I did was I did a denim collection. Over the summer, put out a post on my Facebook asking people for jeans. I said, whatever you need, whatever you have, I want it. Give it to me. I'll come find you. I'll collect it. I want to repurpose your old clothes for my collection. So all of the fabrics in my collection semester one senior collection were repurposed. So old jeans, jackets, shirts, even just like scrap fabrics, which I then also added a layer of kind of personal intimacy into it, where I printed portraits, like photographs of survivors of sexual assault, onto the denim. So in order to do that, I actually made a post on my Instagram story and asked for volunteers. I knew this was a big chance I was taking. I knew I was, you know, not only exposing myself, but going to be exposing other people. I really thought I was going to have no takers. But I asked for 4 to 6 volunteers, and I actually had 15 people step up and volunteer to be a part of my photo shoot, which just was so incredible. I was so taken aback, but so excited and just ready to, you know, work together and create this support group. So there was one night at the beginning of the semester that we all got together in the photo lab in Search Hall, and we did a whole portrait series. I did photographs of everyone, and we were able to come together, share our stories, and really unite and create this force of men and women who are standing up for a greater cause. So between the sustainability of, you know, the denim and the upcycling, to these portraits, which I actually printed using cyanotype printing process, which is something that I was learning in a class here at Jefferson. Honestly, all of my resources and everything came from Jefferson. So again, it's just using what's around you and taking advantage of what you're given, as a student here. But, printing these images onto the denim and putting it onto a menswear collection then surmounted to something so much greater than just making clothes. It was taking a social stance in, environmental, but also societal progress, and really standing for something that I believed so strongly in. And my God, it was not easy to get through this semester. Actually, for the record, when I submitted my sketchbook, so the way the fashion design works, over the summer, over your break, you have to complete a sketchbook, doing all of your research, developing all of your ideas so you can just hit the ground running once you get to school. I actually failed my sketchbook for this semester. I submitted it. I did not have enough content. I rushed it, and I was devastated. I cried for like 3 days. I was about to drop out of fashion design. It was the first semester of my senior year, and I was genuinely thinking I was ready to change my major because I was so frustrated with myself and, not putting the dedication into this, even though I was so passionate about what I was going to do. So after that, that turned everything around, and it was ups and downs throughout the semester. And really, it was late nights. It was staying in studio till 2 a.m., but being back there at 8 a.m. the next day. It was working at home on my home sewing machine. It was collaborating not only with, my textile design partner, Nayla, but it was also collaborating with my professors and getting the feedback. And it was working with all of the people whose, faces I was showing, and kind of developing this empathy and this understanding for what we were all going through together, and finding an appropriate but powerful and impactful way to showcase this.
So let me ask a follow-up question to particularly the 15 women that reached out to you, because that's a pretty powerful, it is a very powerful statement, that you, first of all, weren't expecting much, but to get the outpouring of support that you did. And without sort of going into too much detail to reveal identities and things like that, do you feel like, or during your initial meetings with this group of collaborators, that there was some hesitation initially to even do this project? Was there a lot of questions as to how is my image truly going to be used? How did you talk to them about that? How did you work them through it as a group?
Absolutely. So when there was definitely hesitation because it's something that people are just not comfortable talking about. They're not comfortable, exposing themselves and revealing themselves. And so when I put out the post right off the bat, I made it clear that you could be exposed as much or as little as you want, depending on how, because my intention was to take like portraits, so headshots of everybody. However, it could be like blurred out. It could be only part of your face. And I was giving people the option to disclose as much or as little as they wanted. However, what was so awakening and so exciting about this was the night that I got everybody together, me being the SGA official person that I am, I made little contracts. And
we haven't talked about this yet, but Vanessa is also the SGA president. So anyway, on top of all of this, she's also doing that. Go on.
Thank you. But no, I made little contracts for everybody. And so I had give me their contact information. And gave them the option to say, I would like to share my story, or I don't want to share my story. I give you permission to take a, full photo of my face, or I give you permission to just take like a quarter shot profile, and really gave them the option to disclose what they were willing or not willing to do. I also gave them the option saying, I approve or disapprove of Vanessa putting this in her portfolio, putting it on her website, putting it on her social media, and really curated so people had the choice to share as much or as little as they want. But what was so crazy about that day and that night was when I handed out, these forms to everybody. We were all chit-chatting, we're having a great time, and I shared some information about myself as well, and just through conversation, by the time I got everyone's contracts back, every single person gave me full disclosure to just do whatever I wanted with these images, which was so incredible. And so, I think just really proves this point that it's not something that anybody's going to hide behind. It's something that we're going to stand up against. And, it's not that anyone's a victim. It's that you're a survivor, and it doesn't define you, but it's a part of your story. And it's, being able to take a stance to move past this for a greater social cause, and standing up for the women and frankly the men as well who can't stand up for themselves.
It's a really powerful project, and I can definitely see where passion definitely plays a huge role in this one. Tell me about the culmination of this particular work and sort of what comes of it. So obviously the blood, the sweat, the tears in the studio, and then just empowering these women to tell their stories through your art and through your clothing. What now comes of this final project?
Absolutely. So what was really crazy was after my final crit, I went to my final critique. I presented my work. It was a really powerful but emotional day to have this come into fruition. But the day after my critique, I got an email that said that my best friend Allegra, the two of us were selected to have our collections shown at New York Fashion Week, and that was the craziest moment of my entire life. I was actually, and I think that's something that's so exciting is New York Fashion Week is something that is accessible to every senior fashion design student at Jefferson. Every semester, 2 seniors are selected to have their work shown at the following runway show. So it's something that, when you're a freshman, you look up to that. You dream of having that opportunity and having that role. However, when you get to this point of, actually being there, it's not at all about working for that goal. I think it's way more about working to produce, garments and clothing that you are proud of. And if you get that, that's just an incredible, life-changing, but incredible bonus. You don't work for the prize, you work for the work, and then maybe you get a prize. And so that was so exciting, was the fact that, I put my heart and soul into this project. I put other people's heart and souls into this project. And, it was so much more than just schoolwork. It was something that we all cared about. There was emotion, there was, passion, and there was truly this social impact that was added to it that allowed me to then showcase this work on a much larger field, on a much larger scope. And I remember when I got that email, I was actually by myself in my apartment. I had just walked in, I had opened up my phone, got the email, and I just started crying. Oh my God, I just started crying. And I tried to call my parents and they didn't answer. So then I called my older sister and I'm sobbing. I'm just sobbing. And she is like, Vanessa, what is wrong? Did someone die? Are you okay? And I'm like, Ashley, I got into New York Fashion Week. And so she's literally at work and she starts crying and is like hysterical. And we're laughing, but she's like, oh my God, you got to get yourself together. You got to call like our other sisters and you got to call mom and dad. And I eventually hung up the phone with my older sister. I get myself together. I call my little sister. I'm like, Christina, guess what? And she's like, what? And I go, I got into New York Fashion Week. And I start sobbing again. And it was just hysterical. By the time I got to call my parents and my boyfriend and my friends, I had it together and I was okay telling the story. But it was just like everything that, honestly, all of the hard work and the sweat and the tears, like the honest tears and the pain and the, struggles but also the support came into that moment, and just feeling that all of those emotions right then and there, literally not being able to contain it, because my God, I was not sad at all, but I couldn't help but not cry because it was so powerful. That flash forward, 2 months later, it's February and we're going to New York Fashion Week, and it was just the most incredible experience of my life. I mean, I got to really see what it's like to be backstage. I had actually flashback to sophomore year, had volunteered at this show and been a dresser backstage. So I kind of knew what it was like to be there. But so then, being a senior and being there showing my work on the runway, my family came. I was with one of my best friends backstage. They were showing their work as well. And just really having this empowering moment, but knowing that I was there not just because I made beautiful things. I was there because I was standing up for people and I was standing up for a cause. And, frankly, it goes back to all of this. I took a chance on people and having them volunteer. I built the relationships so that way they would be comfortable with me sharing their story and, having myself share stories, but all of it coming together being something that I was so passionate about and being able to share my passion on such a larger stage.
I have to ask, how did it feel? What did you think when your collection went out there? I mean, what was that feeling like? There's probably a lot of who's who in the room kind of thing. Mm-hmm. How did it feel?
It was surreal. It was incredible. It was surreal. But actually, at the moment, I mean, I tried so hard to ground myself. You know, that was something I remember that morning. I'm there. My sisters were backstage with me, and my boyfriend's sister was with me as well. So I had great friends. And my mom had texted me that morning and just reminded me, enjoy the moment. Live in the moment. And I think that was what I tried so hard to do, because it was crazy. It was hectic. There were so many things going on. And actually, Allegra's collection went on right before mine, and we had a quick change because we were sharing models. So in that moment, as my garments started to go on the runway, I was making sure my model was dressed and everything was ready. And it was actually hysterical because my one guy who we were changing, his shoe was untied and he was about to walk on the runway. And the producer of the show, she pointed out that his shoe was untied. And so me being the designer, it's my clothes, you know, I care most about them. I go down to tie his shoe and she goes, no, not you. You're the designer. And I was like, oh my God. And so he actually went on the runway with an untied shoelace because I was going to do it, but no one else moved as quick as me. And then I got in trouble for trying to tie his shoe. It was hysterical. But so the garments going on the runway was super fast and super crazy. And there was a lot going on. But as soon as they started their finale walk, I took my deep breath. I looked at my sisters. I put on my smile and I walked out there. And to be totally honest, I was in my element. Oh my God. That was the coolest moment of my life, walking out on the runway. The first person that I saw, which was super cool, was my dad. Literally, I walk out and the first person I made eye contact with was my dad, and then my mom, and I saw my family, and I was just beaming. I'm not even trying to say that in a self-promoting way, but I could feel myself just beaming, and I was so excited and so happy, and I'm waving, and just, I mean, it was hysterical, honestly. It was such a cool moment to be able to walk that runway after, 4 months of your work has just been shown.
The thing I really like about this particular collection as well is I often think about this as people that are interested in particular social issues or want to create change, and they feel like, well, I'm not a policymaker, I'm not a politician. Mm-hmm. How do I, with my expertise, with my skills, how do I shed light on this particular social issue? And I think, your passion for that issue combined with your skills with fashion and fashion design is just a perfect example of there's always a way to do that.
Absolutely.
And so it's a great story. So Vanessa Fath is here with us today. 3 words for success: take chances, relationships, and in this case, you just heard the passion project that went on the New York City Fashion Week runway. Thank you again for coming in, and hopefully I wish you the best of luck in all of the success. I know it will come your way. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and this is another edition of CareerSpeak. Our theme music is composed by Spencer and Robin of Single Use Plastic, edited by Robin and Patrick. Our podcast is in collaboration with WPHU and Career Services.